All right. So it's just about time. All right, it's 7.
Yep. So everybody should be on and going here. So yeah, so just so this is Warner. We got Jeff who's going to be actually showing the demo. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask along as you go. I'll pass them on to Jeff. If there's anything particularly you want to see or whatever, just let us know, put it in the questions, and we'll make sure we get that to you. But he's going to show you just basically the demo of our new Retrospect virtual product for both Hyper-V and VM environments. And yeah, we'll show you some pretty cool stuff. All right, Jeff.
All right, so like I said, I'm Jeff. I'm going to be showing you Retrospect Virtual today. And I think I'm going to start off just by kind of describing the design of the software. There is a centralized management console, which is the virtual management console, and then you'll have the virtual host servers on your endpoints. And the centralized management console allows for monitoring, management, and configuration of various aspects of your endpoints, as well as creating users that can log in and have their own predefined backup jobs and settings. But I'll get into that in a second here. So what I'm doing right now, this is the management console login. You do have an actual login for the management console as well, but yeah, you're probably just going to have one of those. So here we go, moving forward. So here's the console UI. You can see up here as your various monitoring windows. I'll get to those later. Backup and restore, settings. So the first thing I want to show is just these basic settings here. So the user home, I'm not sure if I mentioned yet, this virtual management console also acts as a cloud destination for your endpoint. So it can be accessed through your local network and also over the internet as well. And what I'm showing you here is where you would define destinations for those backups to go. So here I've just got my E drive set as a home, just enter in the path. Not too much to say here, but I want to make it clear that this console acts as a destination for your virtual host servers, which are going to be on your endpoints and doing the work.
And if I can actually, Jeff, sorry, if I can interject here, just again, so I know a lot of you have heard this during the certification training and stuff, at least the general overview. But again, the host server management, the management console that Jeff is showing right now, you can actually utilize it like on your own site, as he was saying, and then from there you put the host servers out on your client ones. If you're going to be acting as that MSP where you're going to say, look, we want to manage all the policies, everything locally, and then we're going to license each one of our clients. So it's a kind of a step above what we do with our Retrospect physical products, where the host server ones are more like the Retrospect servers going to be loaded on each one of those end users' sites. Again, this console here, if you do not want to actually be utilizing this on your own site or whatever, this can actually be something that, again, is licensed on a per end user basis. Again, you would just manage this as basically your backup server console. So again, this is the one management console that really can control all your clients from this one console. So sorry, go on, Jeff.
Yeah, and more to that point, that gives some advantages, right? If you're doing some sort of reselling, you can kind of resell backup as a service by leveraging some of the tools that we have specifically for that purpose, and those same tools also help to manage multiple locations from one centralized point. So let's start by showing users. So to help facilitate management of these various endpoints servers, you can create, or you will create, backup users. And I'll kind of just show a creation of a backup user, and it's going to explain why a backup user is kind of important for this cause. So it's not going to be system. I'm just going to name this math department and give it a password. You can also have groups for your users. I'm just going to do all users here. Try to keep it simple. So the alias, again, if let's say you've got a vSphere server set up in a building, and both it's a school and both the math and science department are using it, you might want to have two users that can access the virtual host server that's backing up that vSphere server. And you might want to have your math department may want to manage their backups in a different way than the science department, and you can create a math department user and a science department user to have each of them have their own customized way of backing up, or not, or you can just do everything yourself, but it gives you that flexibility. So in this case, I'm giving this user an alias because maybe I'm assigning it to the math department, but I want to know that Joe Mack is the guy who's actually managing it. The home directory, this is where if that user decides to back up to the cloud or to this management console, it's going to go to this defined home directory. And let's just put this on my E drive. So again, this subscription type, if you're selling backup as a service, this is useful. If you're not, then you're just always going to do a paid user here. We'll get to that. And again, this is kind of the same deal. You don't really have to worry about suspension because your users are just going to be enabled. Upload encryption key. So this will be important later. Your backups, depending on the type of backup, may be encrypted, and you'll want to. This allows you to upload your encryption key to the management console for use later. Okay, so
and a quick comment to the paid and trial. Again, this management console really is a console that allows you to become this MSP, which means you can have this one centralized management console for all of your end users. So you can actually, from your console, send trials out to end users, say, hey, I want to get them up and going, have them test it out. And then once it's licensed, you turn them over to a paid product. So it allows you a lot of control to manage all your end users from this one central management console.
And again, to that point, this is a section where you are going to allot the various licenses to those users, giving them access to these modules on their virtual host servers when they log in, and I'll show that in a second here as well. I'm just going to give this guy everything here. The quota. So the quota here is referring to the amount of space that this user can use on the user home that I showed earlier, which is the location at the virtual management console. So if you want to limit the amount of data that some of your endpoints or your end users can upload, then this is a great way to do it. Just change that to whatever you want. But this really helps so that no one can just back up more. If you're distributing this out to various locations and having someone out there kind of manage their own backups after you set things up for them, you don't want them to be able to back up too much, and you can set a quota to kind of force that, and then monitor that they're not. I'll show you the monitoring tools in a little bit. You can see that they're not getting close to the quota, and if they are, you can adjust it.
And again, this can be for like both cloud or local disk targets. So, if you have a certain amount of cloud space, you have a certain amount of disk space, then right, you can allocate it out. and say, okay, great, we're going to set up this cloud target for you and utilize this as your cloud space, or we have this disk running, we'll utilize this as your disk target. And then if they say, hey, we need more space, then again, that's something where you would go to them and say, great, if you want additional amount from an MSP point of view, here's additional one you need, or okay, well, you need to get additional cloud storage. We'll raise up the quota and re-parcel that storage out to you guys. So again, it's really allows you to allocate all this kind of storage and everything else remotely.
The only other option here that's important is this run direct option. Run direct is a feature on both VMware and Hyper-V that allows you to run your virtual machine from the backup itself without actually moving the data. It streams the data directly from the backup location, be it local to the endpoint, or if it's contained on the virtual management console over the cloud. So you can essentially start up your VM in minutes, even when your backup data is across the country, in some other server at the virtual management console, or if it's local, same deal. So contact information, again, if you've got end users that you want to keep track of, obviously it would be nice to have their contact information. Oh, and I don't have enough space to, I set a quota that was too high for the amount of space I have available. And then we have a user. Okay, so now we have a user. I'll just show you kind of some of the things you can change about the users. So let me just get out of here. And well, yeah, one thing to note is you always want to save what you've done in order to keep those settings that you just changed. Okay, so let's take a look at here. This is not what I want. Oh yeah. Let's take a look at this user. So now that we've created the user, we can go in and from the management console, we can predefine backup sets. And now backup sets in Retrospect Virtual it's a little bit different than backup sets in Retrospect Physical, where backup sets basically they mean it's a backup job. It's your source, your destination, and your schedule all in one, and it's called a backup set. You can create them for the users here manually. Let's say we wanted a VMware backup. You can get things going ahead of time and set a name for the script or for the backup set. Yeah, let's see, make this easier so I don't have to fill anything out. Yeah. And yeah, you don't need to do that. But essentially, you set up the schedule, you predefine the source, and it shows up as a job on the user's on the virtual host server. And again, I'll show that in just a second, because there's various other settings, statistics you can see for the user. We don't have anything. I just created this guy, so not much to show there yet. There's another thing I want to show here, which is, I'm jumping all over. Where are we? Predefined backup sets. Here we go. So another thing that you can do when you're just kind of configuring, because you're configuring the virtual host server using the management console. So what you can do is add a predefined destination, such as a cloud backup destination, and then when you roll out the virtual host servers, that destination is going to be available for all of those who are using your version of the virtual host server. And when I say your version, I mean that you're configuring the actual host server itself when you're making changes to these settings in the management console. And I'll show that in 1 second. So this is just if we wanted to add an S3 server. You can see here that here's all the information that we would need, and you test it, and then every user would have access to that S3 server. So let me just back out and just wanted to note that here's where your users would go to download the virtual host server. So once you've customized the settings that you want for your host servers to have access to, then you can have the users download the virtual host server by clicking on this guy and downloading it, currently only for Windows. So that's important to note. Okay, so instead of showing all the rest of the settings and stuff here, because that's time consuming, let's go to the actual endpoint itself. I'll come back and show some of the monitoring and logs afterwards when we have something actually going. Okay, so this is the virtual host server. This is what you would see on your various endpoints, and your end users are going to see this. And if you're managing it all yourself, then you'll be logging into this yourself. So, and I did say how this is a great tool for managing a bunch of endpoints from a single location, but it also works just as well if you've got, one vSphere environment to protect, or one Hyper-V server to protect. It's going to be just as cost effective and works just as well. Okay, so I just logged into the virtual host server, and let's start by just showing the creation of a backup set on this end, an actual backup, and we'll even just run a backup. It should be pretty quick. So this is the backup sets window. This is if I'm at the user at the endpoint and I'm going to make my own jobs, or if I'm managing the endpoint myself and I'm coming in here. This is where you can make jobs on the fly that aren't predefined. And also, for a lot of the predefined jobs, they require passwords for certain things anyway, and information that you can't predefine. So you're better off in some cases creating the jobs here. I'll kind of give an example of that. So we do offer a good amount of various backup modules for different databases, as you can see here. I'm just going to show a VMware Backup right now, and this is going to be a vCenter backup and vSphere. And let me just fill in my administrator and this password. Let's try that. And so one thing to note here is that the user, when you're setting up a VMware backup, you definitely want the user to be an admin. If you don't have the correct permissions, then this is not going to work. Okay, I think that's the right password. Come on. Wrong password. All right. Administrator. I double checked all the passwords earlier. Okay, good. That's working now. All right, so right now we're connecting to the vSphere client, which I actually have that VM up here. We're connecting to this guy. That'll be important in a second. So here we are. This is just kind of giving a layout of the vSphere environment. We are just going to select a single VM for this backup, and it's going to be in our 64-bit cluster. And every time we're clicking these buttons, it's got to communicate with vSphere, so that's that delay. And I think we're just doing demo. Okay, So I'm going to, and when it comes to backing up these VMs, there is some granularity in terms of which disk you're backing up. So you can just say, I want to only back up hard disk 1. I don't want to back up hard disk 2 of this particular VM. And when you go to restore, it will ask you if you want to remove the reference to this disk, which is kind of nice. So I'm just going to click next here. And again, I'm just creating a job. It's pretty simple. Backup schedule. You've got the ability to edit and customize your schedule. Yeah, so this currently is set to daily. You can delete this backup schedule and create your own. And then you have options to make it really custom. You've got all sorts of crazy stuff that you can do. I'm just gonna actually keep it on daily. And okay, retention policy, I'll get to that very shortly. You can set it to run. The retention policy is the same meaning as in any other backup software. It's how you determine how long you're going to retain old files for. It's a way to keep the amount of data that you're using to, so you're not reaching your quota, to limit the amount of data that you're keeping around. Okay, so next. So destinations. One cool thing, or another cool thing about Retrospect Virtual is you can back up to multiple destinations at one time. If that's what this sequential or concurrent mode means, if you set up multiple destinations, we'll use multi-threading and back up to each destination at the same time. And if I had a destination here, which I will create, you'd see you can limit the amount. If you only want to back up to 3 at a time, you can tell it to go to 3 at a time. If you have 10 destinations total, something like that. Okay, so so destination pools, if you're doing a single storage destination, you're going to have a couple of options here. With run direct enable, I guess it's time for me to, I did go over run direct, but run direct again is where you're running your virtual machine from your backup itself. And when run direct is enabled, your destination storage is limited because we can't do run direct from a cloud backup. It's just too slow. So we can do it from the virtual management console, which is to your endpoints will seem kind of like a cloud. And then we can do it from a mapped local drive or external drive. But that's it for run direct. Now, if you disable run direct, you'll see that we have all of these other options available to back up to. Again, the downside is you can't use the run direct failover mechanism to just boot up your VM immediately. So I'm just going to keep this on run direct, keep this a single storage destination, and let's see, I'm just going to back this up to my local drive here.
And again, Jeff, the management console is like a Windows physical Windows machine, right? That it's loaded onto the management console, and so that's why that could be act as the storage, the local storage or local disk, whatever, some sort of disk target that you're actually utilizing as that local disk, and this is where you can do that run direct restore from.
Right.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Okay, so set a destination. There's that. Okay, vSphere created successfully. So I don't want to back up the entire VM because it's going to take a little while. So I'm just going to run this backup. I think it's completely identical except for the name. So I'm going to back this up, but before I do, I just wanted to go over retention policy. So the simple retention policy will it says keep deleted files, and deleted files are files that are no longer needed for your current backup, and this just allows you to retain the, if you want 7 days of backups, and you're backing up daily and you want 7 days of backups, you would set it for 7 days, and you can also make a advanced, crazy data retention policy that does all sorts of weird, the 3rd, 5th day of the quarters, there's plenty of options there for you. In file delta, what did I do? Simple, okay. In file delta is basically allows us to do incremental and differential backups, and you do have a lot of settings for that too, but it's probably not worth going over all these in the demo. So let me start this up. And you see there it said connecting to the backup server. Throughout various tasks that you're doing on this endpoint, we're going to reach out to the management console and just talk to it and make sure that all the settings are okay, that the user hasn't been suspended or anything like that. So I'm just gonna start this guy up, and this should take 5 or maybe 3 or 4 minutes here. Okay, so this is gonna go, and it's backing up this virtual machine right here. Might be important later, but that's the one that's backing up. And while that's going, let me go back to the management console. Log in again. And take a look at live activities. And you can see that now over here, I've got this backup running. I can see it. It's showing the same thing that's over here. There's not too much to say. Here's the information on the backup if you want more. And obviously, if you had several servers going off all the time, you would see a list of jobs down here. Okay, so this is getting the inventory. So this is a incremental backup. I ran this backup yesterday and this morning, so I'm hoping it should be pretty quick. I think it was 3 or 4 minutes to finish yesterday. I guess while we wait, I can mention that at least for VMware, there is a limitation in terms of run direct where it requires the change block tracking to be enabled, and that's a VMware feature, and it requires the change block tracking module. I mean, it's included with the VMware license. But if you want, you can back up a VM in it's called non-VDDK mode, and you don't need a license for that, but it will back up the entire VM, and the incremental is a little bit different. It uses in-file delta, but it streams the files to your client and then does the in-file delta, and then it takes the delta chain. Basically, with the free version, it's a lot slower, and you're going to be using a lot more space. Okay, so this is done.
But the end story with the run direct is that with it going, if you have some VM that you need to spin up, you basically pretty much instantly spin it up, get running off it, and then the restore is happening while you're actually running that off the backup itself. So it's like you had that VM actually replicated in a way. So you're running off that, and then it resyncs itself up after the backup's restored.
So let's jump right into that. I finished this backup, and now I want to restore it. So we're going to go to restore. It's pretty obvious there. And this is the one I just ran, so that's the one I want to restore from. So if you had multiple destinations, you could choose which destination you want to restore from. I'm just going to do my local E, that's all I have. So here's where you would select which version of the backup file that you want to restore from. So I want to do the latest, and see, I did one earlier today, about an hour ago. I could restore from that one as well. I've got multiple versions I could restore from, but I'm just going to choose this most recent one here. And I'm just going to drill down and select this VM. Okay, so you can see all the various files that it's going to restore with this VM selected. I could say select restore raw file, and that would just restore the VMDK disks as VMDKs. You see, if I click that and hit next, it's just going to ask me for a local path to do that. But that's not gonna help us for run direct. So I'm gonna uncheck that. Let's just verify, looks good, okay. So when you're doing the restore, you can make it a run direct restore, or you can just make it a normal restore where you overwrite a VM, or just restore it directly to an alternate location without using run direct. And that would mean, instead of us starting up the VM immediately from the actual backup data itself, that would mean just moving and migrating all of the data, and then after the data is migrated, then you would have access to it. So a little bit slower to get access without run direct. And auto migrate after run direct is running. This would mean it would start up quickly. Run direct is going to start up your VM. It's going to start streaming the data, and you'll be able to access it. And then while that's running, it's going to restore in the background. It's going to start moving the data to the location that you picked here. I'm not going to do that this time around. And I'm going to pick restore to an alternate location because I don't want to overwrite the VM that I just backed up. I am actually going to restore to the same vSphere server, which you can do, but to a different VM. So let me just make sure that this looks good. And it saved my settings, which is great. And now we're going to configure the restore. Actually, all right. Okay, so this is going to be my virtual machine name, demo 11, right? Yes, 11. Okay, and then here's where you can change the specifics of the destination. I think retrospects are only inventory. So I want this not to go to Hawkeye. I'm just choosing a different cluster to restore to here. Okay, that's the one. Okay, and then my resource pool. And this is going to go in demo.
Oh, sorry. Question here, Jeff. So one is that the backup set's created from the host server client. Is it visible also from the management console?
Yeah, I mean, the management console can see the backup set. Yeah, yes. All of their backup sets are visible and viewable. I'll show you that in once we get back to the management console.
And yes, that's a good point that somebody brought up. Is yes, so even though the free ESX servers, doesn't have some of the run direct features, in regards to the instant restores, everything else. Yes, the fact of the matter is though we do have support to be able to back those up.
Okay. Going to storage 4. 0511. Okay, so everything looks good. So this is going to be the temporary directory. When you're doing a run direct restore, the VM that pops up is read only, and the rights, all of the changes that you make are stored locally until the migration is completed, and then they are committed to the VM. So it's read only. We're keeping track of the changes, and then once the migration is complete and you're ready to finish the restore, it checks in those changes. There's going to be 2 prompts here for the restore. So yes, I do want to continue with a new UUID. And there's going to be one more question here. Okay, so this is because I did not select both of the disks earlier to back up. I just selected the single disk, and it's letting me unreference the disk that I don't have, and that's pretty nice because that way, you know, there's no configuration problems there, no manual. Oh, actually, I should probably show. So right after I hit that OK button, we started setting things up over here on the vCenter. And what we did is we create a NAS data store on the virtual host server. It's basically mounting the local destination as a NAS data store on this machine and making it available to vSphere. So you can see it registered, created the data store, registered the machine, created the virtual machine snapshot, and okay, so the restore completed successfully. It's ready to go. So you can see right here, we've got this new VM. It's restored and completely ready to go here. Although the data still exists in the same spot. No data has been moved at this point. We're just streaming it. So I'm going to start this machine. Here it goes. And let's open up the console. Now this is streaming VM storage to other VM storage. It's not the fastest storage right now, so although you can see it's up and it's loading right now. I'm not sure how long it's going to take to start up. I haven't really used that machine that I've been backing up for quite some time, but so I'll let that go and just kind of show over
with
here.
any of these restores, though, I mean, the point is that we're restoring these things, you know, either real time or within minutes, as opposed to how we do, you know, the physical ones. We're backing up the virtual machines those ways, where, you know, it could take, you know, hours depending on what you're doing. So for these virtual environments, it's night and day from a speed point of view to get these things up and going again. Again, run direct is pretty much instant when you're up and going, and even without that, we're still restoring within minutes.
Right. Okay. So while the run direct virtual machines are running, you can manage them just by clicking Manage Run Direct Machines. So here's the virtual machine that's running as run direct. You can allow users to, or using the management console, you can configure the amount of machines that a user can run as run direct at one time, and that's useful because if they're running run direct VMs from the centralized cloud storage location, the virtual management console, what you don't want is your resources to get bottlenecked where one user is streaming 3 virtual machines and then another user doesn't have access to that bandwidth because it's being used up by a different host server. Okay, so here is the option to actually move the data. So if you're done doing what you need to do with the machine, or if you just want to start migrating the data actually to the final location, You click on this and it starts the migration. I'm not actually going to do that because I don't want to move the storage over or the data over right now. So I'm just going to stop the run direct. Here we go. And you can see how quickly it's going to clear up everything from vSphere, and it's gone without a trace over here. Okay, so there's that. Let's just go back to the management console now and show a couple of the other settings that you can do or manage. Let's go system settings. Okay. So, of course, there's going to be some setup involved in getting the management console visible to systems outside of your network. If you're going to be doing, backup over the internet, then you'll have to forward some ports and typical web services configuration, just making something available to the outside world. You've got some conditions in which you're emailed about certain things that you can add here. We went over the predefined destinations. I don't have any right now, but these again would be available for the users of your virtual host server. These would be available right off the bat without any configuration by them. And also important to note, I suppose, is that if you set up an S3 destination, the actual user over on this end isn't going to see any of the details. They're just going to see the name of the destination. So that's all kept private on the management console end. Languages. And oh yeah, you can create other other admins that can manage the virtual management console as well, right here. So let's just close out that. Some advanced settings here. Let's see what's important. Proxy server. If you're using a proxy, this isn't necessary though. Logging. This is the SNMP logging. It's probably not good for the demo purposes. These are the various working directories that we're using currently, or that the management console is using. You can see these are just the user home. These are the destinations. This is where the management console lives, and this is the system users. The system user settings and configuration are in here. If I created another admin user, there'd be another one of these homes or system. There'd be another user home here. Runtime options. This is just your resources that are available to the virtual management console, which is important again, because if this management console is being used for cloud restores, for backups, then it's going to be using a good amount of memory and processing power to accomplish that, especially if there's multiple backups running at once. And then there could be backups and restores and all of that going at one time. So it's good to have a good amount of resources available for us to use. Let's see, some more stuff we can. Policy group. Oh yeah, so you can also set up policy groups, which are basically predefined policies that are applied to a user right off the bat. That's kind of helpful for doing things quickly. What we're going to see here. Okay, so this was asked earlier. Can you see the user's backup sets? And here's where you can see. I just made this one today, and it's got all of the options. You can adjust everything. You've got full control over the backup sets from the management console just as well as you would from this endpoint itself. So just to be clear, you can make your adjustments and all of that from the management console. You don't need to use the virtual host server for much, but it's useful, especially for anyone not at that endpoint to access. And if you're doling out responsibilities, then this is excellent because you can specifically give a user a license to do just this, and then you could define it for them and just say, you can log in, you can tell them log in whenever you want and do this, or you can just have it go for them. It's all up to you. Statistics. Let's see what this gives us. Okay, I haven't really used this before. So here's some statistics. It's pretty cool. We get to see the amount of storage that they're using, and you can see I shot up right here when I did my first backup. It's giving us what it's telling us what actually caused this change in storage size, which is handy. Just a summary of what's happened recently. And this is what the user's various settings look like here. Various administrative tasks can be accomplished with that. Okay.
And it's very cool. It's basically, again, this management console allows you to kind of create these worlds for your end users. So it's a very, very powerful tool and an easy way to, again, to monitor and manage to see, oh, hey, you guys are probably going to be running out of storage soon or whatever. A lot of statistics to give you all that kind of information. One question here, Jeff. Any way to set the storage view to be a bit more human readable, like 150 gigs, other than 150 whatever that is, billion? Can you change it from whatever, bits to terabytes or gigs or whatever else? Or
in the report?
Yeah. The last I was looking, the number looked pretty big too. So
let's see. Again, it doesn't look like it. I wasn't even aware. This is the first time I've gone to this this window. Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely look into that and see if there's a way to readjust it to.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't.
I've got to imagine there is, because that could be an awfully big number awfully quick. So we'll see if there isn't how we can get that to be human readable. Good question.
So let's get this going here. Is this? No, this isn't the one here. Backup, restore logs, dashboard, storage. Okay, so there's also this is a little bit more human readable, and this is your storage on the management console. So the actual the storage that's local to the management console or a map network volume will appear here, and as your users back up to these various destinations, you can you can monitor and make sure that things aren't close to being full. And my DVD drive is very full right now.
And right now we're looking at a user, right, Jeff? I mean, this is so each one of these end users would have their own
this is allocated. Not a user. This right here is total storage for the management console. I'm not in the user's profile here.
Okay.
This is just your management console.
Divvy it out as needed. Okay.
Right. Okay, so I guess I didn't really show off this too much yesterday. Today, let's see, what were the system errors? So, not sure what all that means. All right, so let's get. We didn't miss any backups. There's nothing interesting here. These are just, this is the to-dos. So yeah, there's not your overview. This is the overview of just the management console. Again, what I'm looking at right now is the the dashboard, the management console dashboard. So this is showing us statistics and information from this management console. It's not talking necessarily about any of your endpoints in this section here. So when it's
another question, Jeff. What
yeah.
happens when the quota limit is near the end or has already been depleted? Are there any warnings that get issued in advance before the backup starts? Does it warn you there's not enough space with the quota given?
Yeah, so if you don't have enough space to complete the backup, you're going to get an error right in the beginning of the backup, telling you that. I'm not certain of the warnings beforehand. I feel like there is a way, but that's one that we can put a pin in, and I can get back to that one.
Yeah, we'll look into that. So basically, they need 100 gigs, and they only got 50 gigs more space. When it, hopefully it goes through a check thing and says.
Well, it definitely checks before the backup happens. It'll let you know that you don't have enough space to do the backup, and a backup will not complete. And then, but I'm not certain if it warns you, the day before that you're getting close. That's something I'll have to look into.
Okay.
See if we have
we'll get the details. And again, just, any of these questions that are being asked here, we'll make sure that we get the detailed answer for you, get them back to you. We're going to have this recorded here, so if you want a copy, we'll get this to you as well. And we have all sorts of collateral in regards to the Retrospect Virtual Online. One more question, Jeff. Any options for restoring individual endpoint files rather than VM's files, similar to Veeam's ability to mount a backup and pull files from it?
So not yet. It is something that we're looking into in the future. But what you can do is do a run direct restore, boot up the VM, and then copy out the files that way without actually, you can get access to the specific files you want without moving any of the other data. And then, and then copy them to the location of your choice.
And I think, as Jeff said, now that I finished reading, yes, I think the ability to do like those file level restores is going to be coming out like whatever Q3 or Q4. So that is something that is coming sooner in the pipeline. So we'll keep you up to date in regards to when that ability is available.
So yeah, I just wanted to point out in terms of storage local to the virtual management console, you can see here that we do have email reminders when space is getting low. It's not specifically related to the quota here, but at least we have this for when things are getting low on the console management console end. Let's see, what did I not show over here? Report. Oh well, I could show just. Well, anyway, so this is a report. It gives you the details of the various backups you've done. This was the one I did this morning. This was a backup to Google Cloud. And this was one that says failed, but actually it just was not. I had a feature that was disabled. So the backup completed, but it didn't back up a certain schema. So let's see the logs. So you can see the logs. The logs give each step of the backup, which is pretty nice. You can copy and paste these logs, and you can also download them from over here. So this is the management console again. I can download this log as a PDF. And boy, am I glad I installed Adobe Reader yesterday. It took me half an hour to get it installed on this darn VM. And as you can see, it's got the backup summary and settings and all of that. So there's those logs. Utilities, I guess this is useful. So there's a data integrity check. It essentially checks your backup data for corruption and reports it if there is. This is just manual data retention. So it's based on your various backup sets. If I just wanted to run my data retention on my local demo test 510 backup set, I could do that immediately, or I could manually start it instead of scheduling it. And then I can delete backup set data. And of course, you're able to, again, the backup sets can have multiple destinations. So that's why it's saying select a destination here. If I wanted to delete this backup just on my cloud, if I had a cloud listed here, I could just choose the cloud destination. Otherwise, I can just choose my local. And yeah, this lets you just choose specific. When we're saying files here, it's meaning versions of the backup data itself. I've got the backup from this morning or from earlier this morning that I could delete just the data for that, or I could delete the newest data as well. It's up to you. There aren't too many settings over here on the virtual host server. Again, if you need to use a proxy, you've got that option. And then there's Windows Event Log integration. It's kind of boring. Yeah, let's close this. And I think that's
just so you guys know too, with all this stuff, there's no integration with this product with our existing product, the Respect for version 14 or 12. But we do have some people that utilize it to actually take the data, they'll move it to that disk, and then from there they grab it with Respect, the physical product, and actually move it off if they want to move to tape or something from archiving or long-term storage or whatever. So there's but there's no actual integration between the two of them, and between the interface and stuff like that. Although that's something obviously we're going to be working on moving forward as well at some level.
So we've got a few minutes left. If there's any more questions, that was probably a good time. I'm trying to think if there's any other settings that are important that I should go over.
Any Q&A, competitive. I said from a licensing point of view, just so you understand, again, there's different ways to license, right? If in fact you're going, look, we're going to be the one managing the one with the management console, then you just get this one management console, you host that yourself, and then you just get the host servers, clients for your end users, and then from there you just license per socket or per VM. So license price points are going to dominate against any sort of competitive products. Again, if you don't want to utilize the management console locally, then you can actually set up, we even have bundles specifically saying, like, this does the host server, it has a management console, and it backs up 5 virtual machines. So in a small environment, we have bundles just for those as well. Again, so it really depends on how you want to do it. It really is a very versatile solution for any of these virtual environments. So yeah, and we also have trials available as well. So if you guys haven't got them already, I think we sent you some of the information, but there's trials with getting started guides, everything else. So you can click around, test it out. Just available as well later on. Let's see, another question. Can the management console be run on a cloud server?
No, it cannot. I mean, you could probably do it and cheat the system, but I don't think RunDirect would work very well. The reason why RunDirect isn't available through the cloud is because it doesn't run well streaming from the cloud. So I suppose it's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it. You can install. I mean, right now I've got the virtual management console installed on this VM itself. You can install the configuration however you want. Although I'm not sure how well that would work.
So and I think Jeff's right on that. And I think too, that yes, technically yes, it can be, but there's going to be definite limitations in regards to the capabilities in regards to it. Again, all these questions, though, just so you know, we'll get the full details on all of it and the specs, everything else, and make sure you guys have that. So the more questions we get, the better. The more we'll know what you guys need. But yeah, as he said, right, there's obviously throughputs. It depends on pipelines. It depends on where the storage is, you know. But yes, in theory it can. But yeah, there might be some limitations depending on what it is you're trying to do.
Right. I would test it out first before finalizing on that because it will let you do it. I mean, the management console won't be aware that it's that it's on a cloud server, but I would definitely test it out first.
And that is why we have the trials for. So they're actually at 60-day trials, so you can download it, test it. There's a limitation on the amount of data that can be backed up. We're working on actually, just so you know, you guys, getting NFRs for you guys. The best way to get that set up. Again, because of this separate console, it's a little different on our side as well, so it's not where we go, hey, here's Retrospect and we just got this license to create it. We also have to set up our own Retrospect world to be able to say, hey, here's a trial for you guys, here's an NFR for you guys with so much storage, everything else. We're trying to figure out the best way to get that done. So just to thank you, Jeff, from somebody.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome. And again, a lot of good things. So again, we'll make sure that if you guys don't have it already, that we'll send you out like the part numbers, the general licensing information. Again, whatever you guys need along the way. If you're doing the trials, again, Jeff's available. To go over questions, anything with you for setup needs as well. We'll look into these kind of things. That can, in fact, we can make this into a terabytes or something to make it a little more readable. But yeah, so anything that you guys need along the way as you're demoing it, as you're trialing it, it will be available to you. And then the end story is Retrospect has a solution now for virtual environments, both said Hyper-V and VMware and free ESX. We have just the latest 6.5 support that came out, 2016 support that just came out. And again, in addition to the physical products that were just released in March as well. So a lot of cool things. It's a great way to, if there's price point concerns or anything else, you're looking for a good virtual solution, you want to say, hey, look, we want to be able to, we have a lot of customers that are saying, well, we're using Retrospect for this, and for virtual, we're doing this other solution. Now it makes it very easy to say, look, we got one US-based vendor, we know who to go to if there's any issues or problems. We're going to have said price points are always going to be second to none, and in these virtual environments, as opposed to having to treat them like a physical box like we do now, we can now actually take the benefits of these virtual boxes and back them up that way. Any other questions or anything you want Jeff to show or whatever? Cool. Well said. Again, it's all there. We'll say we got the trials. It said, any of you guys have any questions or need that, let us know. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to check it out. Hopefully you guys saw some capabilities that are going to solve some of the problems that you're dealing with right now, or patch some of the holes that you have in your solutions right now. Again, some cool stuff, some new opportunities to get into this whole, even act as that MSP to where you're actually providing these services and doing all that management locally, while still having the support at those remote clients. Again, if in fact you want to do it on separate end user basis, the ability to actually still have that management console go out there, and you can just set it up for them and have those things located on each local end user's one. Cool. Jeff, thank you very much. Again, any other questions along the way, you'll have my email if you don't already have it, werner.walter@retrospect.com, if you guys don't already know who it is. But it said always feel free to just reach out, or you just do NA-sales now at Retrospect, and we'll get you hooked up with whatever it is you need. So another thank you and another thank you. So cool. Thank you guys for showing up. Yeah. You guys have a great work Friday and then a good weekend.
All right, guys. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully I did okay. The second time doing this this demo, still kind of trying to smooth everything out. So
yeah, so just one of our tech support guys he's the one who's going to help you problem solve things and everything else. So yeah, it said this is new virtual, so there's a lot of capabilities to it, a lot of features, a lot of functions, and showing the demos, trying to get it within a space. And unless you guys wanted to do a nice 16-hour demo, I'm guessing that probably would not be the case. It was great that he was able to kind of shrink it down and kind of be a nice overview. Obviously, if you need more specifics in regards to how to set things up, whatever, they're available. Another thank you for you, Jeff.
You're all very welcome. All right, I'm going to hop off. So everyone have a great day.
Sounds great. Any other questions, just direct them right to me or the North American sales box, and we'll get them over to Jeff or answer them ourselves. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep. Take care, guys.